June 20, 1944, to 13 a.m. Western Pacific. South of Guam, the cockpit is dark except for dim green lights. The engine hums steady and loud, outside. The sky is black and empty. No moon, no stars, only ocean below. A single American fighter cuts through the night at 12,000 feet. Salt air rattles the canopy. The pilot grips the stick. Sweat runs under his helmet. He cannot see the enemy. Then a voice breaks the silence. Contact, 12 miles. Bearing 085. The radar scope glows. A pale dot moves across the screen. The pilot turns left. The aircraft banks smoothly. Airspeed climbs past 240 knots. Somewhere ahead, a Japanese bomber flies blind and unaware. The night smells of oil and hot metal. The engine strain rises. The pilot slows. 8 miles, 5. Target steady. Same altitude. The pilot does not look outside. He trusts the screen. He trusts the unseen signal bouncing off metal wings in the dark. At 2 miles, he finally sees it. A shadow. A shape. Twin engines. He squeezes the trigger. 6.50 caliber guns erupt. Tracers tear into the bomber. Fire blooms. The enemy plane falls away, burning, silent. Below, the ocean waits. This kill will never be seen by the men who ordered the mission. It will not appear on any radar in Tokyo. But it is proof of something far larger than this single moment in the dark. If you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. The idea did not begin in the Pacific. It began with fear of surprise. In the late 1930s, American planners watched Europe closely. Aircraft were getting faster. Bombers could cross oceans. Fighters could no longer rely on eyesight alone. The United States invested early in radio detection and ranging radar. At first, it was bulky. Ground-based stations watched coastlines. Then engineers pushed it into aircraft. The challenge was weight, power, and reliability. Early sets failed half a fuselage. They overheated. They failed often. By 1941, American engineers made progress. Airborne radar sets, like the -720 Seychelles rupees, and later the APS-6, became small enough to fit inside fighters and bombers. They used rotating antennas and cathode ray screens. A trained operator could detect large aircraft at over 10 miles. Smaller fighters appeared closer, but still early enough to react. The strategic need was clear. The Pacific was vast. Night attacks were increasing. Japanese bombers often struck at dusk or after dark, knowing visual defense was weak. Carrier groups were especially vulnerable at night. The U.S. Navy and Army Air Forces responded. They trained crews to fight without seeing. Fighters like the F-6F Hellcat and P-6-1 Black Widow were modified. Radar scopes were placed in cockpits. Some planes carried a second crewman. Others trained pilots to read the screen themselves. Speed mattered. The Hellcat could reach over 370 miles per hour. Firepower mattered. 6 heavy machine guns could shred a bomber in seconds. Radar tied it together. It allowed interception in cloud, darkness, and bad weather. Japanese doctrine did not follow the same path. Their aircraft were light, agile, and long-ranged. But they relied on eyesight and daylight. Radar development lagged. When American radar fighters began flying patrols every night, the balance shifted quietly but decisively. At first, the system did not work smoothly. Pilots distrusted the screens. Some called them ghost boxes. The signals flickered, contacts appeared and vanished. Early radar sets could confuse sea clutter with aircraft. Training took time. In 1942, several night interceptions failed. Pilots flew past targets they could not see. Others chased false returns. One report noted, radar contact lost. Pilots unable to reacquire visually. Frustration grew. Accidents followed. Night carrier landings were dangerous. Radar fighters were heavier. Landing speeds increased. In 1 month, A single squadron lost 5 aircraft without enemy contact. Deck crews complained. Commanders questioned the value. Japanese pilots noticed little at first. Some mocked American night patrols. One captured airman later said, "They fly in the dark like fools." Early Japanese losses at night were low. Confidence remained. Technical limits were real. Early radar range was narrow. The screen showed only bearing and distance, not altitude. Pilots had to guess vertical separation. A mistake of a few hundred feet could mean missing the target entirely. Training hours increased. Some pilots logged over 100 hours of night flying before combat. Radar operators drilled constantly. They learned to read weak signals. They learned patience. By late 1943, losses dropped. Success rose. Crews learned to work as one. The system began to prove itself. The turning point came when doctrine changed. Radar was no longer treated as a backup. It became primary. Pilots stopped searching the sky. They flew the screen. Controllers aboard ships guided fighters close. Radar operators refined their calls. Short commands replaced long chatter. Left 5, steady, close. Strengths became clear. Radar ignored darkness. Clouds meant nothing. Surprise returned to the defender. Data confirmed it. Radar-equipped fighters intercepted bombers, with over 70% success once within 10 miles. Visual-only interceptions at night rarely reached 20%. The Hellcat night fighter carried the APS-6 radar, a pod on the wing. It weighed about 200 pounds. Range against a bomber reached 5 to 7 miles reliably. That was enough. American pilots learned to approach from below and behind. Japanese gunners rarely saw them. Attacks lasted seconds. Ammunition was conserved. Fuel was managed carefully. The system favored discipline. Calm voices, trust, one pilot wrote. The screen tells the truth if you listen. By 1944, radar was standard. Bombers carried tail warning sets. Fighters hunted in pairs. The night sky belonged to those who could see without eyes. The Battle of the Philippine Sea marked the first large-scale test. June 19 to 20, 1944, hundreds of Japanese aircraft launched against American carriers near the Mariana Islands. Daylight ended with heavy Japanese losses, but night brought danger. Damaged bombers searched for the fleet. Some hoped to crash dive onto decks. Radar picked them up far out. At 1 a.m., carriers launched night fighters. Each pilot flew alone into darkness. Lieutenant Edward Butch O'Hare had died months earlier, but his tactics lived on. Slow approach, close range, no warning. One Hellcat intercepted 2 bombers in a single sortie. The pilot recalled, "They never turned, never fired, both fell into the sea." By dawn, over 20 Japanese aircraft were destroyed at night. None reached the carriers. Japanese commanders could not explain the losses. No flares, no searchlights, just sudden death. Another encounter came over Rabaul in late 1943. Japanese forces launched night harassment raids against Allied airfields. They expected immunity. P-61 Black Widows arrived quietly, twin engines, crew of 3. Radar range over 10 miles, for 20mm cannons. On November 13th, a single P-61 intercepted 3 bombers in one night. Cloud cover was heavy, visibility near zero. The radar operator tracked each target. The pilot closed in, short bursts, each bomber exploded or crashed. Japanese reports noted unknown night fighters. Pilots described attacks from nowhere. Morale dipped. A third encounter unfolded during the defense of Okinawa in 1945. Kamikaze attacks surged. Many came at dusk or night. Radar fighters flew constant patrols. Fatigue was severe. Crews flew multiple sorties per night. On April 12th, a radar-guided Hellcat intercepted a low-flying attacker just 3 miles from the fleet. The pilot fired at point-blank range. The enemy plane disintegrated. Had it reached the ships, dozens could have died. Weather often made the difference. Rain squalls hid attackers. Radar cut through them. Wind buffeted planes. The sea vanished below. Pilots spoke little. Focus narrowed. Fear stayed quiet. Industrial scale made the system unstoppable. By 1944, the United States produced thousands of radar sets. Factories ran non-stop. Training pipelines expanded. Over 40,000 aircraft received some form of radar or warning system. Carrier groups integrated radar control centers. Every night had coverage. Japanese industry could not match it. Radar production remained limited. Many units lacked spare parts. Training lagged. Fuel shortages worsened the gap. American pilots trained constantly. Japanese pilots flew less and less. Doctrine evolved fast. Radar-guided interceptions became routine. Loss rates dropped for defenders. Enemy penetration fell sharply. By the end of the war, radar was not special. It was expected. The psychological effect was heavy. Japanese pilots feared the night. Some refused missions after dark. Slang spread. Invisible fighters, ghost guns, diaries captured it. One pilot wrote, "The sky watches us." Another said, "There is no safe hour." American crews felt the edge. Confidence grew, not arrogance, trust. They believed in the screen. Enemy morale declined. Surprise attacks failed. The sense of control vanished. Late in the war, systems improved further. Radar sets became lighter, displays clearer. Range increased slightly. Reliability improved. Single-seat fighters handled their own interception. Bombers gained better warning. Tactics shifted to layered defense. Radar-guided gunfire emerged. Proximity fuses appeared. The night became lethal. By August 1945, radar defined modern air combat. The final assessment is clear. Radar did not win the war alone, but it changed it. Thousands of enemy aircraft were intercepted before reaching targets. Countless ships were spared. Early doubt gave way to respect. One captured Japanese officer said, after the war, "We thought darkness was protection. We were wrong. The legacy is simple. From that point on, no aircraft would ever fly alone in the dark again."